Mao Zedong wanted to eliminate any opposition that would stand in the way of him and his country and the future he had planned for it. When Mao Zedong and other communist leaders attempted to reshape Chinese society, all opposition was ruthlessly suppressed. Various establishments opposed Mao's desire to create a Chinese state in which economic disparities were non-existent. Mao's main opposition was from within the party, but there was also external opposition, mainly from groups such as the intellectuals. The moderates of the revolution opposed Mao's idea of rapid industrialization and collectivization because they believed they were ineffective. One such group to object Mao were the Chinese capitalists. Mao feared that they would gain too much power with the party and would try to gather forces to change the economic state of the country. Mao referred to these people as capitalist roaders, a person or group who demonstrated a marked tendency to bow to pressure from the bourgeois forces and subsequently attempted to pull the revolution in a capitalist direction. They were also referred to as the bourgeoisie of the party. Mao created the term as a form of propaganda in itself, as it was used to label outsiders who the police force or the Red Guard could prosecute for their attempt to go against communism. Many believe that Mao was paranoid about the threat that the intellectuals in China posed to his rigidly structured society. If someone was deemed wiser than himself, they were capable of defending other schools of thought that conflicted with his own. Mao attempted to suppress opposition through the use of violence and terror. He focused mainly on the physical elimination of his opponents through purges and intimidation. Mao used the installation of fear to suppress China's educated population by employing the country's youth to hunt down and punish teachers and other intelligentsia.
From 1951 to 1952, Mao began his first campaign to eradicate opposition to his rule. The campaign to suppress counter-revolutionaries was especially targeted to weed out the remaining nationalists. The campaign was directed at remaining GMD spies and those who had committed crimes. Those that were targeted during the campaign were labeled as counter-revolutionaries and were condemned during mass public trials. The campaign to suppress counter-revolutionaries was shortly followed by the 3 Anti campaign in 1951 and the 5 Anti campaign in 1952. The 3 Anti and 5 Anti campaigns were urban reform movements that targeted capitalists and business owners and served to purge opposition to the new communist government. The 3 Anti campaign attempted to eliminate embezzlement, waste, and bureaucratism from the new China. The 5 Anti campaigns stated that bribery, tax evasion, theft of state property, cheating on government contracts, and stealing economic information were the 5 evils and were considered to be the worst excesses of capitalism. The 100 Flowers campaign was a movement that began in 1956. Mao and the Communist Party of China encouraged citizens of the People's Republic of China to openly express their opinions of the communist regime. After this brief period of liberalization, however, Mao initiated that anti-rightist movement, which consisted of a series of campaigns to purge alleged rightists within the Communist Party. In addition to these campaigns, Mao and the Communist Party used struggle sessions that were used to shape public opinion and humiliate, persecute, and sometimes even execute political rivals and class enemies. In these sessions, the victims were forced to admit to various crimes before a crowd of people who had verbally and physically abused the victim until they confessed. As many as 100,000 people would attend these struggle sessions.
In the early 1950s, Mao created the Laogai system, modeled after the Soviet Union's gulags. The word Laogai in Mandarin means re-education through labor. The term was used to describe a system of labor prison factories, detention centers, and re-education camps established by Mao. It was a slogan of the Chinese criminal justice system. The belief in the camps was that the majority of people were happy, and the ones that weren't were not bad, but just misguided. They needed to be re-educated. The people were put into the camps to see things in an enlightened way. The conditions were horrible, and the intention was to break the body and spirit of the inmates. The prisoners were dehumanized. The camps were all throughout China, but many of the worst were deliberately built in the most inhospitable areas of China, where there were harsh weather conditions that made life torturous for the prisoners. To get a bare minimum of food to eat, the prisoners had to make a full confession of every single crime they had ever committed. The people who claimed that they were innocent were interrogated, deprived of sleep, held in solitary confinement, beaten, and starved until they broke down and conformed. When people tried to go against the system, their families were threatened, and the thought alone made them yield. The average number of prisoners in the camps each year was 10 million. Over 25 million prisoners died during that period. The term used by the prison authorities to describe those who committed suicide was alienating themselves from the party and the people. By the time of Mao's death in 1976, there were more than 10,000 labor camps spread across China. The camps terrified the entire nation. Families associated with people in the camps were considered guilty too and shunned, and they realized that this could happen to anyone.
Lin Biao was a Chinese communist military leader. According to the Chinese government, Lin Biao was made aware that Mao no longer trusted him after the Ninth Central Committee, which made him grow in desire to seize the highest of powers. In February 1971, Lin Biao and his wife began to plot Mao's assassination. His son, Ling Liguo, also formed a group of his closest comrades to help with the event. His subordinates planned on assassinating Mao by sabotaging his train that he was supposed to be on after a meeting. Mao changed his route, however, changing the train he took. This was how the attempt failed. Mao later became aware of the assassination attempt and who had planned it. When this happened, Lin Biao and his party fled to South Guangzhou, where they established an alternate party headquarters and attacked armed forces that were loyal to Mao with the help of the Soviet Union. After news came out that they were being investigated, they decided to flee to the Soviet Union. They boarded the plane that would take them to their sanctuary, but the plane soon crashed in Mongolia due to the fact that there was not enough fuel for the trip. All 9 people on board died from the crash. Historian Roderick McFarquhar at Harvard thinks that Lin actually fell into one of Mao's traps, and believes that Mao was afraid of Lin's hold over the army. An ensuing tactics against him led to Lin and family's fateful attempt to flee. In the decade following 1971, there were many steps taken concerning the Lin Biao affair. The party attempted to cover up the details of his death for over a year, which was then followed by an anti-Lin Biao propaganda campaign. After Mao's death, the party erased him from their history. The only news of him was that he had conspired against Mao. Mao Zedong imprisoned or executed those who opposed him and his beliefs. He made and saw out that the camps would hurt people as well as their families. The message was clear. No one and nothing was going to stand in his way.